Would you look at this? I finally bought a CF Moto Ibex 450. I've only been dwelling on it for 2 months, and I actually made a deposit on one back in late October, early November. Then the Suzuki announced the new DRZ 4S. Put a deposit on one of those. Kept the deposit on this one. Dwelled on this for a while, and then finally canceled the deposit. Well, then when they showed up at the dealership, I went and looked at them and was pretty impressed with it, and then got the hankering again to buy one, and then waffled a bunch and put a deposit on one, and then canceled it. Anyway, so fast forward to end of March, here we are. I haven't even started this up yet. I picked it up yesterday at a dealer in Prosser, Washington. Huge shout out to Desert Valley Power Sports. They were very patient with me. I talked to them on the phone several times. So our odometer, 1 mile. They actually just took this out of the crate and built it yesterday. Here we go. Wow, it sounds just like a Tenere 700. This is impressive. I haven't test ridden one of these either. I wanted to test ride one yesterday. That was going to be my deciding factor, how the test ride went. But it was cold at the dealer in the morning, so I didn't ride one. Finally, I just told the sales guy, well, no, I'm just going to buy it. Doing a test ride is really not going to make me decide not to buy one, because I've already pretty much think I want one. So I just said, let's do it. Got to get these mirrors adjusted here. I'll try them in the low setting. I don't know. We'll see how that works. So over there on the other side of that orange trailer, you see that ugly looking rig. That's a Polaris Ranger. I had a Tenere 700, and then I bought that Ranger. And then, let's see. So I bought that Ranger, made a couple payments on it, and realized that is an obnoxiously high amount of interest that I'm paying each month on that payment. And at that point, I was kind of not really sure if I even wanted the T7. It was heavy and big for me, kind of anyway. So I put the T7 up for sale and used that money to pay off the crazy loan on the Ranger. And then fast forward a year later, here we are on another small-ish, mid-sized adventure bike. So prior to the Tenere 700, I had a KLR 650. And took that on 2 big adventure rides, and that was about all I had interest in doing with that bike. I did take it out a few other times, and I just didn't really have an interest in it. It was big, heavy, bulky. Didn't have anybody to ride with. Wow, it is hard to keep this thing below $4,000. First impression, I will definitely need the rally seat. I may also need to bump up the preload on the rear suspension. Get the sag set correctly. It sags quite a bit. Wow, this is like impossible to keep it below $4,000. This is going to be an extremely painful break-in period. Ooh, nice strong brakes. I remember breaking in my Tenere 700. That was a long, arduous, painful process too. and I did it in June and July, and it was scorching hot. I would take it out sometimes on the weekend and put 30 or 40 miles on it, and sometimes I would run it out, do some riding after work. Wow, this road is tore up. This winter has been pretty harsh on the roads around where I live. So I was rambling about still planning to purchase a DRZ 4S. That is still my plan. I have a 2002 DRZ 400 that I've had since 2006. I don't really need to replace it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just want shiny new bikes. That's all there is to it. I will say these fairings up in front of the tank are quite a bit wider than on a Tenere 700. My knees are completely tucked in behind. Kind of hard to see there. That is not the case on a T7. My knees do stick out beyond the tank. I would estimate this is probably at least 3 inches wider, maybe closer to 4 inches wider. At some point, I'm going to figure out a way to measure that width. I have some ideas. It's going to take 2 carpenter style framing squares. I only have one. Yeah, with this stock seat, my knees and my legs are bent quite a bit. So I can definitely see the need for the rally seat. And these bars are rolled way too far towards me. I've heard that is a common issue. I don't know what state of disassembly these bikes are in when they are crated up. So I don't know if the dealer is responsible for setting the bars or if the factory installs the bars. Maybe the factory installs it and then removes it to crate it. I just really don't know for sure. Standing position is pretty decent. That actually feels really good. So my initial impression is the bend of the bars and whatnot should work out for me in a standing position. Definitely just have to roll them forward some. There's only so much you can do to reposition these bars without doing some modification to your switch pods, because they have a pin in them that then goes into a hole in the bars. And I think I read somewhere that there's also some sort of a set screw in there. And I don't know if the set screw threads into the bars or not. I haven't actually seen anybody post photos or whatever of that. It's only been just brief snippets of information that I've read through one of the discussion groups that I belong to for this bike. Yeah, we're just tooling all over the place in these back roads. This is exactly what I did for breaking in my T7. Yeah, I am totally flat-footed and my knees are bent when my feet are on the ground. The seat is nice and soft. I'm actually really impressed with how comfy the seat is so far. Granted, I've only got 6 miles on the bike. The Tenere 700 I did all of this kind of riding locally for breaking it in, and I took one highway trip down to Avery, Idaho, which is a point along the Idaho Backcountry Discovery Route, and then went from Avery, I went up the old railroad grade, which is just a gravel road. I probably went up that 5 or 6 miles if I remember right, and then turned around and came back to Avery and then took the highway back home. And then rode this up to Mount Spokane in November of 2022, I think. Yeah, so that's Mount Spokane up there. And then did a little bit more gravel. And then literally that was the extent of the riding on the T7. And in 2023, first ride of the year, I broke my wrist riding my KTM. I hit a little rut or something in the road, a cross rut, like a water drainage channel or something. Jarred my wrist really bad, and it fractured it, so it was my left wrist. And I can actually still feel some pain in it, some discomfort every once in a while if I move my wrist just right. So I was sidelined all of that summer and didn't ride from May until about mid-September. And that was when I kind of got a little skittish about riding a big heavy bike after breaking my wrist, and then the whole thing with the interest compounding craziness on the payments on the Ranger. So between the wrist and the heaviness of the T7 and all of that good stuff, that's what prompted me to sell it. It was also very top heavy. These grips are hard as a rock. That's going to be the first thing I need to replace. I have not taken the rubber inserts out of the foot pegs yet. And one of the things I noticed on these foot pegs, I compared these to the width of the IMS Pro Series foot pegs on my DRZ 400. Those measured at 2 inches wide. These measure just about 2 1/4 inches wide. So I don't see any need to put any different foot pegs on unless I was going to go with the rally style foot peg that CF Moto has. But it's not too likely I would probably do that. The only thing you gain by those is that they're maybe a little bit more grippy. I would have been totally happy going either way as far as my bike purchase, either this or a T7. It's just, I didn't want to spend the amount of money that it would have cost for a T7. I just didn't want to have close to $14,000 tied up in a bike that only comes out and gets ridden a handful of times every year. And the reason I say upwards of $14,000 is because by the time I did some upgrades to it, that's about probably what I would have into it. If I was only going to have 2 bikes, then it wouldn't have been such a big issue. But my DRZ is the bike that I ride the majority of the time. KTM is more specialized for single track and technical terrain, and then adventure bike. I'm not really too terribly interested in riding an adventure bike on all the places that I take the DRZ. Could I? I probably could, but I know there are places I go on the DRZ that I would not take a T7. There's even actually one route that it's not even that terribly enjoyable on the DRZ, but I've done it, and that's one of the routes on the Touratech rally that runs up the Mad River Road and goes up to Tahiti Lookout. It's a fun road up until about the last 1.5 miles, and it's littered with rocks and loose rocks and embedded rocks, and it's kind of challenging on the DRZ. I mean, I can do it, but it bounces me around and throws me all over the place a little bit. It is so nice to have the display read the voltage right there. I've had issues with the charging system on my DRZ. And wow, what a junk pile that is. That's the thing about these rural areas is people have these big plots of land and they just turn it into a trash dumping ground with dead vehicles and RVs and stuff. Anyway, I got sidetracked. Voltage. Yeah, my charging system has given me issues a couple of times on my DRZ. And then last year I finally added a voltmeter to it. And that was after I replaced the stator because the stator completely crapped out. But when you got a lot of accessories, like what I'm going to put on this is some grip heaters plus the GPS, it's nice to be able to keep tabs on what your charging system is doing. Like I said before, it is really hard to keep it under $4,000. Well, I'm at about 20 miles and I probably have about 15 miles to get back to the home, so I think I'll end this video here. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ask me any questions that you'd like to know about the CF Moto Ibex 450 as well as the Suzuki DRZ 4S. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.